Hello everyone, my name is Asyam, and in the previous video we stopped at familiarity threat point. And actually I remembered the case of Adelphia that I read recently, and it is the perfect example of ignoring all the safeguards uh, and the result of underestimating these safeguards and threats actually led a company to become bankrupt. And all the members of the company, they actually resigned and paid like a ton of money. The case is called Fraud and Loss at Adelphia, a Wall Street story. So let's talk about the history of this company. This is a real company, a real case. Everything is real. So there was John Rigas. He paid $100 for a franchise of telecommunications company in Pennsylvania, Countersport. Established this company in 1952 and had 25 customers. So it was a small family business, and then in 1972 it grew so much that it had 6,000 customers. So it was pretty rapidly increasing, and in 1986 it was announced that now that company is publicly traded on the Nasdaq stock exchange, which is very good for a company. So after that period, all the telecommunication businesses, they kind of like went down, and everything just was not so good in the businesses of that sphere. But actually by expanding to internet access, paging services, business telecommunications, and acquisitions in the United States of America. So this Adelphia company, like, it just like everyone was going down, and this company just went up. And became the sixth largest cable company by the late 1990s. Pretty impressive. But then in 1999, how it's called? Oh my god. I'm going to look this up because I just... I forgot. Okay. Securities and Exchange Commission. Yes. So this commission actually noticed some suspicious activities in that company and began a criminal investigation of Adelphia, because it like just everything about this company just didn't look right, So actually, in the end, we have that Chief Financial Officer and Chief Accountant Officer Tim Rigas, who is actually a son of John Rigas, on a conference call said that it had $2.3 billion in loans. Shocking. So there was a big scandal in 2002 that led to bankruptcy, resignation from the company, and share price went from $28 to 79 cents and was delisted from Nasdaq stock exchange. So it's like a short history, and let's kind of discuss in more detail like what happened there and why is it that how on earth they had $2.3 billion in loans. So, there were 3 types of fraud activities in that company. First of all, the company was hiding debt in unconsolidated subsidiaries. So they used co-borrowing credit facilities with family-owned businesses, and they had a lot of family-owned businesses, so that Adelphia bank debt is reduced. So they send all this debt to their other businesses, and it looked like Adelphia doesn't have much debt. And the investors and everyone was kind of like trusting this information. So they went away with it. Then second, intentional misstatement of the company's performance to meet an analyst's expectations and mislead investors. So they were very afraid of disappointing the investors and shareholders, like everyone, and they were like, okay, we need to kind of like have our shit together. And they thought that by misleading every information, like they have done so many illegal changes to their financial statements, it's crazy. And they thought that by keeping the investors happy, the company will continue to flourish. And they were wrong. Third, many fraudulent misrepresentations and omissions of material fact carried out to conceal self-dealing by the Rigas family. I already told, like, they lied so much that it's like literally crazy. They obtained more than $1.3 billion in stock and notes through manipulation in cash management system. They had $241 million in personal debt. They bought timber rights, golf course, like clubhouse, luxury goods, and they had to pay compensation for the victims. So the Rigas family, like, they kind of like relaxed, and they thought, well, if nobody is like checking on us, and like our auditors are like literally sleeping or ignoring intentionally, like literally, like, let's buy expensive stuff, like let's just buy the clubhouse, the golf field, like let's just buy all this stuff, and we don't care about, like, we don't have the money for it, but we still will buy it because, like, who's checking? Wrong. Never think that way. Because if a company is like continuously lying and things that somehow nobody will find out, like, it's so naive and silly, actually. Like, it's so silly. Like, the guts that they have, like, I would be afraid if I had like 1,000 tenge in debt. Like, any debt, even like the smallest one, would freak me out. And they had like millions, billions in debt, and they were like chilling. Or if not chilling, then be like, then somehow they were like, well, it's going to work out, but like, how will it work out if it's like too much of a number? It cannot be not noticed. It cannot go unnoticed because it's like too much. And somehow, okay. So there were a lot of fraud factors and just their own culture of this family that created the perfect fraud storm. So what factors were included in this storm. First of all, booming Wall Street economy. Wall Street was flourishing, and in a like everything seemed great. Second, corporate culture of moral decay and dishonesty. So you see that that family, the Regis family, was not very honest family in general. If it can create so much of debt and so much of miscalculations, misrepresentation, then definitely the whole it's like lying was definitely the thing of the family. So it's like all of the family members were kind of like dishonest, unfair, they were all they all had this fucked up culture. Okay. Next one is unrealistic market expectations. So in order to kind of keep up and be Nasdaq, hold this price of the shares, in order to kind of live up to the expectations of an investors, you had to kind of be perfect. You had to generate crazy amount of revenues, and you had to live up to those expectations, and sometimes it was so pressuring, and the fear of disappointing all this public and investors, it was so high that we're gonna lie, but the investors will be happy. Next is high leveraging. Next is executive bank for firm greed. So you can see that a lot of members of the company were greedy, because if they were not, they would not buy golf clubs and obtain so much debt. They were definitely very greedy people. And they treated Adelphia as their own personal piggy bank. So Regis family retained full control of the company. John Regis was CEO and chairman of the board. His sons, Tim, Michael, and James, all were directors, vice president of operations, CFO and CEO, vice president of strategic planning. So they were all kind of this, the vice presidents, crazy. His son-in-law was also a board member. They had voting control of Adelphia stock, an entitlement belief of investing more than others. And actually, they were respected in counter sport, because they kind of helped the people and kind of did some charity. So public definitely trusted this company very much. So let's talk about what the hell was doing the auditor of that company, because what? Independence and due care? Never heard of it. Deloitte was the external auditor from 1968 to 2002. Then it was dismissed by Adelphia when it started to raise some concerns about this company. So, Adelphia quickly just got rid of it. Okay. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, charged Deloitte for professional negligence, breach of contract, fraud, and failure to detect the massive fraud from 1992 to 2000. So definitely Deloitte agreed to pay $50 million to settle the charges, but it did not deny or accept the blame. So they kind of paid the money and decided to forget about it. Dearlove and Caswell, actually the main, like the senior managers, were charged for improper professional conduct. Um, there was no assurance of detecting the improper exclusion of debt on the balance sheet, improper netting of related party transactions, overstatement of stockholders' equity. So after hearing all this statements, Deloitte kind of attempted to shift the blame to Adelphia and say, well, they provided us with improper information and they completely misled us. But it is the job of the auditor to kind of detect some very suspicious information. So it's like definitely the SEC, Security Exchange Commissions, like they definitely got angry with Deloitte because like you fucked up and you should say that you fucked up, because you cannot be like put all the blame in Adelphia, because your job was to kind of prevent this from happening. So from 1998, Deloitte assessed that the company has much greater than normal audit risk. So it was like first red flag, and first like beam, so that it's like something is wrong here, like something is so wrong here. And many of risk factors were associated with 72 various businesses run by the family. It's crazy. It's like, what? It's so many. Deloitte knew about the multi-billion-dollar borrowings and suggested additional disclosure of the co-borrowing debt in at least 6 drafts. But when the management refused to make changes, Deloitte never disclosed this issue or any other disagreement. You know, familiarity threat. So Deloitte was working with this company for a long period of time, and it kind of was like, okay, like they didn't want to lose this client, and they closed their eyes on like huge red flags. Deloitte signed an unqualified opinion on the audit and ignored the safeguards for familiarity threat. It failed to prevent further damage due to lack of independence. And we talked about like integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, professional competence. There were no professional behavior, no professional competence, no objectivity, and no integrity. Like they completely ignored the principles of auditing. Like you should not do that. So what can we say in conclusion? Business frauds are responses to perceived pressure to perform, opportunities to deceive, and a rationalization of behavior. So this perfectly describes the crisis fraud triangle. So here we have opportunity. So they saw the opportunity, like nobody's checking. The Deloitte is like kind of like in the clouds. Literally, we can do whatever we want and we will not get punished for that. Public trusts us. Public believes in us. It's like the perfect opportunity. Rationalization can be, for example, well, I deserve it. It's my company. I deserve to spend money to spend this money that we earned from our company. It's our family business, so we can definitely, it's our business. Like they had so much businesses, they were like, well, we have the right, like it's our businesses. So they kind of like made excuses for their behavior. And now we have pressure. Pressure was from this like Security Exchange Commission and the investors, shareholders. Like there was a lot of pressure from like Wall Street guys. They and the Adelphia did not want to disappoint them, so kind of messed up. So the last threat that I haven't talked about was management threat. So what is it? Manager's threat is when a client trusts auditor so much that anything that an auditor say influences their decision making. So when you run the company, your decision making should not be blindly followed by the words of an auditor, because an auditor is just an auditor and you are the CEO of the company. And you cannot take consulting and auditing from the same firm, because it creates this management threat. If you want consulting and you trust the opinion of KPMG, for example, you should not be audited by them. Because what if auditors say something wrong and you make a huge mistake and lose a lot of money? So that definitely should not happen. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.